Hello, beautiful people. It's a beautiful afternoon here from the city of Belfast, Northern Ireland. Yeah, this is 3,000 miles. My name is Oladimiji Shodeke. Today, I'm supposed to be, joined with all other my brothers. That's K and Ose. So, I'm still trying to see why K is not on board with us. Um, so, how you doing, my people? How you doing, beautiful people, happy people? Today's topic is a contemporary one, and I think it's one we could trash together. It says cultural values versus social services. I'm laughing because we've seen what has played out, most especially in England, a couple of days ago, where there was a serious, hiccup between the citizen and the police. And from what we heard, was the background story was the fact that social services were also involved in taking child and the children of some immigrants, and they weren't happy at it. Of course, no parents would be happy at such, move and all. And there was there was a response, and the reaction got to other reactions that led to a bigger reaction. Yeah, before I proceed, I want to give a big shout out to those behind the curtain that has been making 3,000 miles for Raib all this while. And let me start with the CEO, the big fish, the big don of Jambo Radio himself. That's George. We call him Mr. George. Of course, not George of the Jungle, but George of Jambo. He's the big fish behind the curtain. A big shout out to him, and also to the producers of this program, to Baron, and to the rest of the crew, whom their names are eluding my memory right now. Big shout out to you guys, and thank you for your consistency and making all this happen. So, um, a question I want to ask, which is going to be um, a rhetorical question, is that how can we, and this is a question for us. Like I said, it's a rhetorical question. How can we actually maintain cultural values and avoid hiccup with social services? And that's why we are here. That's why we, in 30,000 miles, have seen it. Um, I've seen it so important for us to discuss such a matter because we feel that if we don't, many people come here and they start exhibiting certain traits that actually are obtainable from the country where they hail from, but from here it is not acceptable at first. Let us first clear one major argument. So maybe when we start from that, you would understand that that's at the foundation of of the whole issue. In Nigeria, you are your parents' child. You are the child of your parent, or let me say your parent own you, literally, backed by the law. They're responsible for you, cater for you, responsible, ensure your well-being. They are the one whose capacity, or let me say financial strength, determine the kind of school you go, the clothing you wear. Yeah, of course. And we know what plays out at the bigger scale, the kind of friends you associate with, the neighborhood you live in, whatnot, whatnot. Strangely, strangely, not to people living here, but to those that are coming from such a mentality, is that when you get here, you need to understand that your child is not yours. Yeah, I think that is the first thing an African person cannot reconcile with. Your child, your son, your daughter is not yours. Your daughter is the
Hello,
responsibility.
Imeji.
Hello, my brother. You're welcome
How
on
you
board, bro.
doing?
I'm fine. How you
I'm
doing?
in London, so it's really sunny out here in London.
You told me you are the capital.
Or let me speak like them. I'm in London.
In it. Yeah, you didn't complain. You
In it.
in it.
So how's everybody doing? How's 3,000 miles today? How are we doing today? So we're crossing borders already for 3,000
Yeah,
miles.
trust me,
We're,
it's a
we're
sunny and
not
beautiful
going to
afternoon.
be one place.
Of course, of course. And before you came on board, I introduced a topic, and the topic is the cultural values versus social services. And I tried to, give an antecedent of what happened in England a few days ago, where there was an hiccup between the citizens and the police, and we heard that one of the major things that happened was that social service was involved in taking the children of a certain family, and they reacted, which led to a bigger reaction and led to a Twitter reaction and led to a widespread reaction, and that led to a global reaction.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to say that we should try to trash some things out, which is from our society. One of the things that it is obtainable from our society where we come from is the fact that the child is his parents.
Yeah.
The parents largely determine the child's education, the child, and of course, the neighborhood the child grows up with, the kind of association the child makes. Of course, when the child attends some certain school, that means you could predict some certain kind of peers the child would likely have. So largely the sole responsibility, I mean, the entire responsibility of a child is on the parents, and that means the parents are the sole owners of the child. So I said the what Africans cannot reconcile with when they get to a society like this is that the first thing they don't want to be told, which but the truth is that their child is not their own. It's not theirs. Like the responsibility they think they used to have, that responsibility they feel I am the one paying for your school fees, and no. Now the state government has invested heavily in every child so that they are seeing to the right of every child. As a matter of fact, every child has a right to education. So you parents could actually be in trouble for not actually putting your child in school. And if your child is not going to school regularly,
There's
noticeably,
a
you
problem.
could actually
Yes.
there's a problem, and you could not treat your child anyway because it's one of those part of education that will pass you to the child that you are not meant to be treated in certain ways. You have a right. You could call the police, whatnot, whatnot. Unlike the society we come from, where we are. I know this is the first thing, the first fundamental thing that an African person struggle with. But we need to let them know because if we are going to be running out of this, if we are going to be avoiding this kind of problem, we have to be dealing with the truth. So what do you think?
To be honest, Dimeji, let me jump in here. To be honest with you, it's a struggle and it's a pain. Why it's become a struggle from what I've observed is, for example, if the government are saying my child is 50-50 with them, I don't mind having that because okay, they are contributing heavily, which I appreciate. They are contributing heavily towards education and all that, all sorts. But as an African, sometimes you see the fact that your child is being negatively influenced in more ways than you can imagine, and your hands are tied in trying to put that child in the right path because of okay the facet of society we have. Children are given a lot of liberties which they don't have back home in Nigeria, and have the average, especially for the worst hit of such things are for parents who had their children given birth to in Nigeria and then the children have tasted both worlds. You understand? The children, for example, a child who's like 12 coming to the UK at 12, you've tasted Nigeria where your parents has to tell you you must do everything according to the books, and you must, you know, you mustn't go against their word is law. In the African, the traditional African home, the word of the parents is a law. And then you come to the UK, and you come to a society where your parents can tell you do this in certain ways, you can question such decisions. So for children, it gives them some kind of wow, is this the new facet of freedom? Ah, this looks nice. And they're not so wise to really, really filter where to draw the line. That's where the problem is. You understand? Because where the problem is not the society itself. The problem is you who is in the society not knowing where to draw the line. You get
Um,
it?
mm.
So that's the problem. Because in a case
um,
where, are you with me?
yeah, yeah, of course, I'm with you. I'm with you. Please go on.
Hello.
Go on. Please go on. I'm with you. Can you hear me? Okay. I wouldn't know what happened, but I know Kay will come back. What Kay is trying to say is the fact that we have pros and cons, the positive sides to things. We can't just see the African side is actually entirely bad.
I went off for a
Of
second there. I'm
course.
back.
Okay, okay, all right. Please
And
shoot.
so I've seen a case where there's a case of I saw a case somewhere. It was what I experienced when I came into this country. There's this woman I know. I met the boy. The boy was born back in Africa. Very respectful boy. Boy should be as at the time I knew that boy was about 8, 9ish or 10. Very respectful boy. Very sweet boy. Talk to him. It's so like I'm like, wow, this is how a child should be, very cautious and everything. And some months ago, I was walking just close to my street. I saw this boy vaping with some white kids. I saw him vaping with some white kids. My heart was broken. Like he saw me, he was shocked. He was in a state of shock. My heart was literally broken to pieces. I went home. I told my missus, I was like, "This is what I just saw. I feel really bad because this is a kid who's a good kid, but is now missing with the bad company." And there was another day, my missus said he saw the child with the mom, and the way the child was responding to the mom, it wasn't palatable at all. So I'm like, wow. So, but in Nigeria, I'm not telling you that there are no bad vices in Nigeria. In Nigeria, children also go astray. They mingle with bad friends. But the parents go all out. They go all out to ensure that they do their best to see how they can both in Africa, there's no legislation against flogging a child, both by the rod, flog the child, by punishments and everything. Even though some people go to the extreme. But at some point you are basically satisfied that I've done all I can to ensure this child is good. So if at that point the child has decided to go off course, that's on that child, not you at that point in time. But where we are right now, there's a problem of you are so you are a little bit limited in what you can do aside talking to the child generally. You can't do much in that perspective. And it's a very tricky situation because you have to follow the rules and regulations of the country because they do not play with their children here. You have to always keep to the rules and regulations of the country. So it's something that it's a very touchy subject because over time I've actually spoken with friends, spoken with different people, have had discussions about how how do you go about training your child and they keep that those virtues we are known for from Africa. It's quite tricky, it's quite dicey, but it's something that you must always find ways to talk to your children. That is just the basic thing. Because at the end of the day, in as much as the government is doing so much for the child, at the end of the day, you have the sole responsibility to ensure your child is in the right path, is in the right direction of life. So it's something that we have tried. We'll try so hard. We'll still keep trying. Still because we all have kids, and you must always, I've seen cases. There was a story I heard. It was a very sad story recently about a child who died while under foster care. It was a very hard one to take. It was a very hard one. I had a conversation with the mom one time, and it's really hard to take. But at the end of the day, who's to blame? Do you blame the society? Do you blame the government? Because at the end of the day, the government can do what they can, the school can do what they can, but sometimes the society is an influence to these kids and everything. So it's really something that can be talked about and everything. As we go into the topic, we'll keep breaking in and we'll keep delving in and see how we can open up vistas as regards that area. So the Meiji, I think the Meiji is having some network glitch. So but basically, first one thing I'll say as regards bringing up a child, first thing we as people need to understand.
I'm back.
Like you were off for a minute.
Yeah, my network was glitching. I wouldn't understand. So I
All right,
just
I thought as much. So, like I would say, but first thing is the first thing is an understanding of the society. Because at the end of the day, there are ways you treat your children, you get issues. But still on the other side, there's always a challenge. I was before you came in just now, I was talking about the issue of the story of a child who died in foster care, a child who was in foster care, and the child died while in foster care. So it's really sad. It was taken from the parents at a young age, and then finally the child died. It's very sad. But because in such cases, who do you blame? Do you blame the foster parents? Do you blame the biological parents? Do you blame the government? Who do you hold responsible for
well,
such things?
I want to put forward a question in line of this conversation, and my question could be in folds. One of the questions I want to put forward is the fact that, you see, the topic is cultural values versus social services. Is the fact that do we do we actually does the law of the land recognize the weakness of its own culture, or is just so focused on the fact that this is how we do things, whether it is on the high, on the positive side, or not? We are not ready to review it. As long as you come here, you guys must do like us. Why I'm saying this is this: I had an encounter back in Scotland when I was traveling down to Belfast. So I was in the bus stop. There were these aged women. Of course, everyone involved were white. I was the only black in the bus stop that day. So I was just watching everybody. So I was at the bus stop, and these kids were literally drinking on top, like, I mean, teenagers. The oldest in that circle would be 13 years old or 14. They were drinking liquor, they were shouting, breaking bottle, they were constituting nuisances. When I mean nuisances, and you could literally tell that these old people could not take it anymore. They were actually saying this is nonsense and all, and I could hear it from them that bring back the cane. Honestly, this is the honest truth. I could hear it from them that bring back this the cane. This is rubbish. And they were saying it that during their own time, they could never try this rubbish. So that means the initiation of this whole thing of don't touch the child, whatnot, is a new face even to them. Because
Yeah.
I could see the older generation right there saying that bring back the cane, that this is rubbish. This is this is an uncultured generation. This is not working. This is nonsense. And the funny thing is, one of the women could not stomach it any longer and actually shouted and said, "You guys should stop it. Don't you have any respect? Can't you?" Jesus Christ! Could you believe that all these kids nearly beat this woman?
Wow.
I'm not lying. I'm not kidding you. They were raining curses, abuses, spitting on this woman, saying all sort of fucking like, oh Christ. I could not even bear it any longer. I was already on the go that if any one of them just
The,
touched
the,
that
the, the
woman,
African in you came out.
I promise you, I was there and I was saying no. If any one of them, this is not about color anymore. I just switched that moment that if any single one of them just touch that woman, that I'm just gonna lose it. They were not even spitting to her face, they were spitting on her foot, Yeah, they were saying all sort of nasty things. And this woman kept quiet. She was feeling like she had no support. She was feeling like she has lost the war. She was like, I was in the bus and I couldn't just phantom what just happened. So back to that, my question, could we now this is a question to the society we came here now. Yeah, yeah. You said you civilized. Don't touch the child. Don't spoil the road or whatever you are trying to get at. Yeah, yeah. You're dancing to your law, but are you trying to say that every of your laws that you've made that you tag as modernization does not actually have its own constraints, just like you're experiencing one now when you said they are now arguing that children should not take phone to class anymore, is disturbing them from studying and all, and they're passing voting trying to, this is a common sense. Don't it's a matter of discipline. This is not something that is subject to conversation. Children, we adults, we are still struggling with this device. We're struggling with it, fam. Not to talk about kids that they can go on TikTok, they can see many and mischievous kids. Their mind is already divided as studying, and you are already raising a stupid generation. So these are things that an African parent in an African society, it is not even up for a debate. It is something a principal would just wake up one day and tell you that if I find phone on any student, you guys are in trouble, and that is law.
So it seized.
So that's the question now. Are we? It's a question. It's a rhetorical question. Now we can actually trash it. Are we saying that okay, all in the name of we? You believe that you are advanced, that this is what is called modernization? Does it mean that everything about your society is perfect? It's actually advanced culturally and in terms of law and everything.
Dimeji, it's what I've seen. Being being in a modern society does not literally translate to being in a working or a morally grounded society that's morally grounded. Because the more modern we become, the more exposed we become, or like the word they say, the more woke we think we are, the more deteriorating morally we tend to be. Because way back when I was in school, that was not even a subject of discussion, having phones. That's because, first things first, you are in school to learn. You are not there for communication. Because some people they are giving the impression that okay, kids have to communicate with their parents. That's why they have a school. Like me right now, my child is in school. If they want to communicate with me, if I want to communicate with my child, the school has a phone number I can call. And if my child wants to communicate with me, you communicate through your teacher. Your teacher they have my phone numbers. They can call me via the school number and say your child wants this. Because to be honest, this is becoming a menace in society where kids have to take phones to school, and the teachers don't have a right to tell you don't put that phone away when you are in class. Because I've seen cases where teachers are trying to they are trying to tell teachers to put phone away, and then there are issues. There are issues to say, okay, and people, students insulting teachers, talking to teachers in a very, very inappropriate manner because of the fact that you have it's the society we are breeding right now. I was speaking with someone, and he said to me, said he wants he's a white person, British. He said, I want my daughters to marry black people. I said, why? He said, looking at the society is heading towards a place where I'm seeing the black and the Asians, they are looking more cultured than the average white British kid or the average British kid. The immigrants are looking more cultured in terms of their society. So they try as much as possible. He said it will get to the stage in society that most of them, what they will be breeding now is junkies. That was the words he used. That they are breeding junkies to a very large extent. And it shouldn't be so. Because you see the things legislations are doing now, we'll look at posterity in future. What the benefits the UK is reaping right now in terms of how advanced the society is, how the society is moving, was the seeds sown back by the forefathers, the seeds that they sown. That is what they are reaping right now. And the truth is, if the seed sown presently, you might not find the effect now.
Mm, mm,
It might be
mm,
minimal.
mm.
Give the
That's very deep.
society another
That's very deep.
give the
That's
society
very deep.
another 30 years,
I
another
was saying, I
30,
was,
35 years.
this statement you are saying, that's very deep. I was telling one of my friend that most especially, I was blunt, and I didn't even come from this your angle. This is deeper. I came from the angle of what is obtainable in our society, in our own society, the rate at which what is rampant amidst youth right now. The male wing, we know what they do on the larger scale to survive. Whether it's their fault or not, it's not open to life. It is just nature playing out. If you sow corn,
Yeah.
you will reap corn. So nature is not going to tell you, I don't have a choice. I have to put corn in the soil. Nature does not discuss reason. Nature is just here to give you results. You reap, you sow corn into me. I don't know. Now you know feel pineapple. No matter how you cry and explain to the soil, Baba, now corn you sow. Use and the
Now call you
ladies too,
drop
what they
your
are giving it
corn.
to. What?
I said now son you now corn you drop, pick your corn.
Now
Can't
corn
pick
you drop,
pineapple.
abeg baba take your corn and just go stand or go cook am, I no care. So I was telling the person that I think nature is the most sincere thing in this life. Nature is not in the business of emotion. It's not. So it's just like many people trying to speak their mind and say the nation is this, is that, is doing this, is that, and that's why we are involved in scam, involved in whatnot to survive. To me, you are making sense, but to the laws of the universe, get here. You get it is
You know,
just
you know, you know the funny thing about life is you see the funny thing about life is people always try to justify every action they take.
yeah, I'm still coming somewhere. I'm still coming. That's why I said what you said is deeper. And I'm going to ask you a question on that cultural value, which is going to throw this conversation into a very recent into controversy of the Olympic opening game. Cultural value.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming. Now we can see what is going on in our society. And so I was telling the person that, do you know, I'm not cursing. I said, do you know there's tendency that most of these youths that we are seeing now, they will not grow older than our parents. I think there will be high rate of widowhood during our time. There will be high rate of, and he said, why will I say that? I said, Baba, our papa no take this kind of thing with these boys they take. Me myself, I don't know about so many things. I don't know what they call colos. Now from vibe online I hear am. And when some of my friends where they do and tell me the effect, and they ask them why not they take this thing, something we go make you mad instantly. Now there's colos, there is what's the name of this happy pill? There are a lot of strains of Baba
There's what
strains
they
like
call ice.
bro strain. There are strains, Canadian loud, whatever. Like as I call it, no. The funny thing is now because we still they young, them still they young. And body could actually recover from many hazards you put this body to when you're young. But there's a time this body itself will need you to be conscious of what you give it because everything now is no longer like before. Now why you K go bend down, won't take remote for parlor one day, you go say, hey, you go call, you go call your son say,
Imagine,
say
this
bro,
conversation, eh? This conversation you have, I had because I came down south to see my mom. I came to see my mom came from Nigeria, so she's down south. So I came here. We're having this same conversation this morning. We're discussing about her health. She was talking about how she needs to. I said, see, the body gets to a stage where right now you are doing you can stretch you can overstretch your body beyond the natural capacity at a young age.
yeah,
It will respond to you, but the after effects of those strains will meet you up at old age.
yes, you're not lying,
And that's
yes.
why you see a lot of old people who are quite smart. I've seen people at 85, they are looking very sharp. My father is 70. I was looking at him one. My father is 71 right now. I was looking at his videos one day, and to be honest, he's looking more like 65, 60 because of the way he's still agile. But there are some men who are 70, they are looking like very
Very old.
saggy old men. So back to what you talked about this, because the truth is the vices in society. I don't know if I would say, do you think government, because I don't know how true this is, but I've heard it from several people talking about in a bid to curb the menace of drugs in drug intake in Glasgow, drug related mental illness in Glasgow, and everything. The government has decided to create a safe haven where people who are addicted to drugs can come and take such drugs in limited quantity.
Yeah, and there is also one that they sell emergency syringe. This is all over UK. You can literally walk up to any pharmacist right now and buy syringe in order to curb. Now, can you see a society where we tag as the most like these people are advanced? Now, to curb the spread of HIV/AIDS, they sell syringe for heroin takers so that they don't share the same needles. So they don't continue the spread. So they can come to the pharmacist to come and buy some emergency syringe. That will be cleaner for them to go take. And
So you see the
see,
fact is
bro.
that
So
they,
so
they,
bro,
they
bro,
are they are solving problem of one area but creating more
and
problem
they are
in other
using a
areas.
problem. They claim to be using a problem to solve a problem in order to actually try to initiate the problem bit by bit. Then boom, the
Or
society.
what?
See,
Okay, what they are initiating a problem to solve a problem.
of
That is
course.
what they are doing.
Well,
And
well, let me land this. Let me land this on the recent, Olympic. That's where I'm going. Like I told you,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
recent. Now, that cultural values that we are still talking about now is encompassing. Now, this is a generation where we are deconstructing. We said we are the woke generation. We deconstructed sex. Yeah, we won the argument. Yeah, what not? And you can't tell me we are just limited to two sex. Now we created variants of sex.
So I think that's. So let me pick it up from there, the major. Let me pick it up a little from here in terms of being the woke generation and everything. Because, like I said earlier, sometimes being woke might be might be a problem more than a solution. That is, to be honest with you, being woke. Because In as much as you're trying to be trendy, there has to be some level of, decorum in society. Because at the end of the day, the question still begs, how has the society shaped the human being? Because definitely we are a reflection of the society we are in. Whether you, irrespective of how your parents are bringing you up at home, how your teachers are bringing it, the human beings are just a reflection of the society. Because as a human being, the more you hear about certain things, it becomes entrenched in you, and you tend to want to think towards that. You always want to think towards that school of thought. So the society always colorates human thinking. It always colorates the human thinking. So there has to be some level of how are we going to now shape, how is government going to shape society in general to ensure that we have right thinking members of society going forward. Because with the fast pace of the social media spreading propaganda, spreading news and everything, spreading culture, because social media is one of the major areas where culture is being transmitted. And on one side, there's the fight of parents trying to ensure their kids are on this right path. On another facet, there's the society. So there's a war. I don't know if I'll call it a war, because okay, because like in Nigeria, generals back in Africa in general, let me use that word. General societal values most times are in line with parental values. So there's hardly that uh there's a point of disagreement though, but it's not such a large lacuna between parents, how parents should raise children, and the general worldview of how society thinks a child should be raised in Africa. There is that there is that alignment in thoughts. But here in the UK, Africans generally have their mindset of how kids ought to be raised. The society is giving another template of how they think kids should be raised in their own society. So it's a very, very, very difficult situation to be in, where the parents on one side, you want your kids to be this way. The society has told parents from Africa feels, as a parent, I tell you what to do. I am word, I'm law. You must follow my instruction to the latter. The society on one side is telling you, in as much as they are your kids, you have to give them some level of freedom. So, like the major, what I was saying is earlier, let me recap. So I was saying the issue we have here is, in Africa, there's the alignment of thoughts between parents and society. Because right now, the war is between parents and society on how kids should be raised. The parents on one side have a certain ideology of how they think their kids should grow in society. The society has an ideology of how they think kids should be raised in society. Back in Africa, there is that alignment of thoughts between parents and society on how kids should be raised. If in as much as it is not 100% on the same wavelength, there is sometimes it can tilt to the right or tilt to the left, but there's that linear progression of thoughts. I say, but in this advanced society we are in right now, there is this very big lacuna. The society has an ideology of how they think kids should be raised in their society. Africans on one side, or immigrants generally, they have an ideology of the kind of children they want to raise. So there's always that fight between society and the parents. That's where you
Can I
hear
make
issues of social services and all that. Yeah, yeah. You want to say something?
Can I make a comment real quick? And I was saying something
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't know I even froze. So I have to go back to. You see,
All right, all right, all right.
every contending economy right now, nation right now. I'm going to put China at the forefront. I'll put Japan at the forefront. I'll put Russia at the forefront, among others. When we look at their modus operandi of raising their kids and all, are these people actually instilling discipline, a disciplined culture into their kids? The answer is yes.
Yes,
You
I
see
agree
an
with you on
average
that.
You see an average Chinese and Japanese and all these kind in them, instilling these values of focusing, respect, and all this in the life of in the kids as young as they could be. And that's why they
Yeah,
are growing up in in a society where even elders can actually comfortably live in. But there is one thing about this, this woke Western world that I do not find to understand. This is a generation where they call themselves woke and they are deconstructing almost everything. They came into gender ideology, they deconstructed it. They came into science, they tried to deconstruct religion, deconstruct. Now you think everything about this generation is just to deconstruct. As we are talking right now, some people will listen to my conversation and they will deconstruct my conversation. They will listen to
of course.
they will see DJ Baron and they say no, a DJ should not be. They will deconstruct, and the only people enjoying this generation right now that are heavily backed by government based on whatever agenda I don't know are those dissenters. Are those people that have actually shifted their focus away from the norm? And I know you know the sect of those people. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. I don't. I know it. I don't need to call their names out. Now we can see what they've done at the opening ceremony of Olympics. That unnecessary disconstruct of a certain religion. It is it is an abuse of cultural values. A cultural value that has been in place for centuries. All because you want to express yourself. You want to express yourself. I'm very sure if it had been the other way around, right now, the media would have been littered with
No,
all
there would
sorts
have
of
been a
conversation.
honestly, there would have been a real backlash.
And you would have had ban Olympics, ban France, do many kind of conversation. But right now, everybody seems to be cool with it, right? And I do not know whatever agenda they're trying to pass across. But now let us put this in the right perspective. If everybody is actually in a society where we could have our opinion, we could hear our opinion, we could actually see all our opinion out and say, okay, this is how I feel about some. I do not think where some people pitch their tent and say, I am not comfortable with this kind of thing. We should respect everybody's spaces. So I do not understand why some people, in the bid of them trying to express their own newly found cultural value, cultural expression, are using that to deconstruct another cultural value that have been in place for years. So these are things we need to play out, and I wouldn't understand why things have not even gotten to the fact that we discuss this on mainstream media, and
No, the truth is that
we could see some.
they are tenants of media. Sometimes, because the way the media is now, because the media has this agenda setting function of the media, and right now the media is so powerful because if you studied communication, they said the media moved from the hypodermic needle theory of the media right now to use and gratification. Right now, we're in the era of the use and gratification of the media, and even and some other new more theories. But I will still stand on my ground that the media is still back in the era of the hypodermic needle theory, or what you call the bullet theory, because the media still has because people now say the media does not have the all power they used to have right now, that the users tend to control what they see in the media. But I disapprove of that with you because right now you can't even control what you see anymore, because everything, even as far as to cartoons right now, things I've seen a cartoon where rated 18 issues were infused into a small kids cartoon. And you're like, wow. So the media has the power because the agenda the media has decided to set for us is to make us accept. The media want us to accept
Status
this
quo.
kind of culture. So the current status quo. So the media is pushing it. So any media house who doesn't, any media who doesn't push this agenda, the status quo, you get obscured. And
Now
at
my
the end
point.
of the day, everybody wants to make money in media. So you
Now
must do what is,
my point is this. My point is this.
yeah,
And this is actually, if we don't converse, this is actually one of the resentment people have towards this part of this world.
yeah.
And when I mean people, I mean they are contending nations. No, forget about Africa, right? Africa has their values and culture, and there's nothing you can do about it. These people are going to still they will hold on to their culture as long as they know they will survive on this earth. They've passed through many, many things that could have made them even gone extinct with guns pointed at their head, with their life at stake, and the culture is still surviving. So forget, African culture is here to stay, except some very, very stupid people, on uneducated people who think aligning to everything that seems to be raving or trending is actually making them more advanced. But we are more enlightened than that. We are more civilized, so we understand that your cultural values make you who you are, and you have
It
to
make you who you
express it
are,
wherever you
honestly.
are.
Yeah.
And the Indians, their culture have come to stay. But we have global culture imprints too. We have the Japanese culture, we have Chinese culture. They've come to stay. Nothing is going to affect that. But this, we have the Arabian culture. These are the resentments, like people are actually expressing. I'm not saying, like I said, no culture is perfect. This is not we pitching the culture against. I'm just saying this is one of the resentments they have towards this culture about the fact that it seems everybody's suggestion and conversation, everybody, even a madman trying to, you could imagine someone saying, I identify as a perfume, and that is respected in this kind of culture. Someone stands up and say, I identify as a 3-year-old kid. When
I probably
common sense
identify as a
applies that
microphone.
you are 45, you are 47 years old. Someone stands up today and say, I like a culture. Our, our
So
culture satisfies
I
to
feel
marry your pig. To, many, many things like that that are
the media,
complicated. That
I feel this boils down to the understanding of freedom of expression and information.
but
Because
at the expense of common sense, but at
freedom
the
of
expense of
expression
common sense.
is relative. Is relative because you see these cases like these go into case of legislation. Because when you want to look at it at the expense of common sense, sometimes in court, common sense does not prevail over law. Lawyers will tell you. But
Of course.
sometimes common sense prevails over the law. But there are times where the law prevails over common sense. So
But
that's why I was speaking
does that
with.
make the practice does that make the practice sin? Because look, there's a question that's always posed front to every judge. Like you could actually, is the law made for humans or humans made for the law?
That's a question for another day. If we start that question now, we won't finish. We have just less than 8 minutes. So quickly, let me say something about culture. You said you talked about other cultures. The truth is, I'm not trying to like downplay the African culture, but I think the African culture is more permeable. I don't know if that word is the right word. Is more permeable in terms of it's as it goes on, it tends to have colorations. You understand? I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, like it just adopts whatever it
It
wants to adopt. There's
adopts
no.
whatever. Like for example, you see the Indian style of marriage has been like that for centuries, and they do not change the mode of dressing
But they are
and
changing. They are
everything.
changing right now. It's subject to argument. Now, I have many people that are saying that the rate of divorce in India now is on the high side.
No, when I mean I don't mean divorce. I mean the marriage itself, the way they
Okay,
go
okay, okay,
about the
okay,
ceremonies
okay,
and
okay, okay,
everything.
okay, okay, okay.
That's my point. In Africa right now, in Nigeria, weddings are starting to tilt in terms of what they wear, how they wear it, how they go about traditional ceremonies. For example, talking about those weddings, there was argument that they shouldn't have a a traditional Igbo man would have his daughter bride price paid in Lagos. Rather, he will have it in his. That's a discuss for another day. But my point about talking about this, I feel the African culture is being weakened because I was speaking with somebody. I said, "Do you know why?" Because I looked at the people hosting the next Olympics. The next Olympic will be hosted in the US by Los Angeles. Why the next Olympics will be hosted in Australia by in Brisbane in Australia. And I'm like, with the force, the way the Middle East is entering into sports, they can comfortably host they can comfortably host 3 Olympics in a year
And
with what they
because of
have.
their culture restrict them,
But
restrict them,
I asked
and
somebody, I said, why do you think they can't host? I said, okay, if they host Olympic, for example, now those ladies who do the swim, the diving from the pool, what are they going to wear? Are they going to
but
wear full head to
but,
toe?
but there's another
But so
but there's another conversation around. That's why I say there's no superior culture. There's another because
no, but the
there's
problem is for the fact that the culture of Saudi Arabia, if Saudi Arabia wants to host an Olympic right now, they would not bend to the IOC. In terms, they will be very strict with what people will wear. You understand?
yeah.
They are going to because I've watched the WWE being hosted in Saudi Arabia, the Crown Jewel. I follow WWE, and in the US, in other places, you see how they dress. They wear their normal sport pants and all that. But when they are coming to Saudi Arabia, the ladies are wearing t-shirts covering everything. They are wearing long trousers covering all their legs because of the culture. So you see, this is a culture who, in the face of anything, they are holding to their gun. But the African culture will not be able to hold its own in such areas.
Because
First of all, what I think is
The African leaders themselves,
the,
they are
the
puppets.
problem we have is we have too much dependency on the West. That's our major problem. And when there's dependency on the West cannot dictate what you do. They cannot tell you what to do. I don't know if you understand my point.
Of course, you
So
are
it's not a
making
matter of
points. You're making a valid.
it's not a matter of the culture can be there, but because you are dependent on someone else, you can bend your values. Because if you don't bend your values for certain things, the person can decide to take some certain privileges they are giving to you, and you run at a loss. So when it comes to issues like this of culture and society, it's always because at the end of the day, I come to the UK, I see my child going astray. I in my heart, I want to smack the hell out of that child. But I can't do that. Because I know I do this, my child might be taken away from me by social service. So naturally I'm bending to the will of the society. And whether you like it or not, when you are like the last conversation we had, I said, when you are in Rome, you must behave like the Romans. We are in the UK, as this is me wrapping up. My suggestion is you are in the UK, behave like them. Treat your child like that. But try as much as possible to go the extra mile to really talk to your child and show them the way. But that's the best you can do. And above all, if you be Christian, pray to your God to help your child. If you be Muslim, pray to Allah to help your child. If you dey serve Ifa, pray to Ogun to help your child. Because the truth is, if God doesn't help your child or your child is not helped in this country, bro, I've seen children who they go south. They go south. I don't want to say much. On that note, I've finished. You
Yeah,
might
yeah,
give
yeah.
your advice because we
No,
have 1 minute left.
you've actually called it a wrap. There's nothing I can say again, and I just want to say thank you all for making 30,000 miles of reality. We are moving, and we can only be, we've only covered this distance through your help. Big shout out to all the producers behind the curtain. Big shout out to the big George behind the curtain, Big Baron, and other producers as well. Big shout out to UK and me. And we just want to say that, yeah, we're going to meet again, God sparing our lives, next week with another interesting topic. This is me just saying, stay blessed, enjoy your week, stay healthy,
Stay
rest well.
blessed down south. Yeah, I'll be back. I'll be
Don't,
back in Glasgow by next week.
don't over peak shifts.
Always and above all, take care of yourself.
I
Rest.
beg, I beg, I beg, I
Yes.
beg, I beg. Yes, man.
Oh,
Yes,
take
man.
care.
Yeah,
Bye.
cheers, man. Yeah.